If we try to fight in every revolution in the world, we never stop. Where do we draw the line?
So quick-witted.
Alas, I admit it.
I bet you were quite a lawyer.
My defendants got acquitted.
Yeah. Well, someone ought to remind you
What?
you're nothing without Washington
Burr,
behind
sir.
you.
And did you hear the news about good old General Mercer?
No.
You know Claremont Street?
Yeah.
They renamed it after him. The Mercer legacy is secure.
Sure.
And all he had to do was die.
Yeah, that's a lot less work.
We ought to give it a try.
Huh.
Now, how you gonna get your debt plan through?
I guess I'm gonna finally have to listen to you.
Really?
Talk less, smile more, do whatever it takes to get my plan on the Congress floor.
Now, Madison and Jefferson are merciless.
Well, hate the sin, love the sinner.
Hamilton.
I'm sorry, Burr, I gotta go.
But
Decisions are happening over dinner.
two Virginians and an immigrant walk into a room diametrically opposed foes. They emerge with a compromise, having opened doors that were previously closed. Bros. The immigrant emerges with unprecedented financial power, a system he can shape however he wants. The Virginians emerge with the nation's capital. And here's the pièce de résistance. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one really knows how the game is played, the art of the trade, how the sausage gets made. We just assume that it happens, but no one else is in the room where it happens. Thomas claims
Alexander was on Washington's doorstep one day in distressing disarray.
Thomas claims
Alexander said,
I've nowhere else to turn.
and basically begged me to join the fray.
Thomas claims
I approached Madison and said, I know you hate him, but let's hear what he has to say.
Thomas claims
Well, I arranged the meeting. I arranged the menu, the venue, the seating.
But no one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one really knows how the parties get to yes. The pieces that are sacrificed in every game of chess. We just assume that it happens, but no one else is in the room where it happens. Meanwhile, Madison is grappling with the fact that not every issue can be settled by committee. Meanwhile, Congress is fighting over where to put the capital. It isn't pretty. Then Jefferson approaches with the dinner and invite, and Madison responds with Virginian insight.
Maybe we can solve one problem with another and win a victory for the Southerners. In other words,
Ho, ho.
a quid pro quo.
I suppose.
Wouldn't you like to work a little closer to home?
Actually, I would.
Well, I propose the Potomac.
And you'll provide him his votes.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Let's go.
No. What else was in the room where it happened? The room where it happened. The room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened. The room where it happened. The room where it happened. My God, in God we trust, but we'll never really know what got discussed. Click, boom, and it happened. And no one else was in the room where it happened. Alexander Hamilton. What did they say to you to get you to sail New York City down the river? Alexander Hamilton. Did Washington know about the dinner? Was there presidential pressure to deliver? Alexander Hamilton. Or did you know even then it doesn't matter where you put the U.S. Capitol?
Cause we'll have the banks, we're in the same spot.
You got more than you gave.
And I wanted what I got. When you got skin in the game, you stay in the game. But you don't get a win unless you play in the game. Oh, you get love for it, you get hate for it, you get nothing if you wait for it, wait for it, wait. God help and forgive me, I wanna build something that's gonna outlive me. What do you want, Bert? What do you want, Bert? If you stand for nothing, Bert, what do you fall for?
I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens. The room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens. The room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens. I've got to be in the room where it happens. That big old room. The art of the compromise. Hold your nose and close your eyes. We wanna lead us to save the day. We don't get a say in what they trade away. We dream of a brand new start.
Hello, hello. Welcome, Rotarians and guests, to the most fun club, the Rotary Club of Little Rock. So before we get started today, I'm going to ask Patricia Blick to come up to the podium and lead us in the five-way test, prayer, and pledge. And then Jay Gadberry is going to do guest introductions. And then after that, Membership Recruitment Chair Elizabeth Cloxton is going to announce our newest member. So Patricia.
Thank you, President Natalie. Good to see everybody today. Please join me in the five-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Please bow. I'm sorry, I forgot. Is it fun? Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so sorry. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm serious. Please bow your heads in prayer with me. Dear Heavenly Creator, as we gather today, we come together in gratitude for the gift of creativity and the boundless beauty of the arts. We thank you for this Rotary meeting where we unite in fellowship and purpose, seeking to positively impact our community and beyond. We acknowledge the power of theater and the arts to inspire, enlighten, and bring people together. In the world of theater, we find stories that touch our hearts, characters that reflect our humanity, and performances that ignite our imagination. Guide our discussions and actions during today's meeting that we may find innovative ways to support and engage with our local arts community. May our endeavors reflect the values of Rotary, including service, fellowship, and the pursuit of truth and beauty. In your name, we offer our thanks for theater and the arts and the opportunity to gather today. Amen. Now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We've got some great guests today. We'd like to acknowledge it. If you'll stand up at the end, we'll acknowledge you. Paul Stovall is our speaker today, and he brought his Joyce Stovall with him. Don Cole brought his beautiful daughter, Christina. Jason Chaco brought Chris Glover. Laza Razavingo brought Guy Choate. Christian O'Neill brought Christy Smith. Bobby McDaniel brought Fran Carter. Sarah Riffle brought Ryan Miller. Elizabeth Small brought Michael Johnson. And Kathleen Lawson brought Renee Julian. And one last one, Denver Peacock brought Will Trice.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome Misty Duffy to Club 99. She has a BS in Economics and Finance from Arkansas Tech University and is the Director of Strategy for Stone Ward. Mitzi has a love for finance and a passion for marketing. She has over 15 years of experience lending her unique strategic insights to many national brands. She has worked as Director of Shopper Insights North America for the Elizabeth Arden brand and as Marketing Manager for Sally Hansen. She has also worked with national retailers including Dillard's, Macy's, Nordstrom, Kohl's, Whole Foods, Amazon, Target, Walmart, Walgreens, and CVS. Mitzi is led by the Stone Ward principle to always find a better way and enjoys partnering with everyone at the agency to craft successful strategies for their clients. She supports the Call of Arkansas, a local nonprofit that serves children and youth in foster care. For fun, you can find her playing a round of golf or hiking to one of Arkansas's many waterfalls. She is married to Jason Duffy and has a daughter and stepson. Please join me in welcoming Mitzi to Club 99.
All right. Thank you, Patricia, Jay, and Elizabeth, and welcome, Misty. I'm so glad you are in Club 99. All right. So next, we're going to have Julie Brandenberger, who is our affinity group chairperson, come up. She's going to make a couple announcements. I want to let you guys know that affinity group is a new subcommittee of our broader member engagement committee. And so Julie's doing a fantastic job. She's going to tell you a little bit about one of our ongoing affinity groups, but I want to make sure you know that a lot of you filled out the survey that Julie worked on that said, hey, what other things are you interested in that we can get you engaged with as a Rotarian and with fellow Rotarians? And Julie's got some big plans for that that she'll be announcing later, but she's going to talk about one of our groups today. So, Julie?
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm going to adjust this just a second. I wanted to highlight a few events that are coming up for our Women of Rotary group. I think we have a slide on those, so ladies, if you have your phone, take it out, take a quick picture. Women of Rotary meets every last Friday of the month. Our next meeting is going to be on September 29th, next Friday. It is a 45-minute Zoom call. While it sounds brief, it is packed. Lively discussions, great resources. Next week, our discussion is Networking, Negotiations, and Nonsense, hosted by Mandy Richardson. It should be a great time. Karen will send out an email link with the Zoom link so you can join us. In October, mark your calendar for the 11th. Natalie is hosting the Guess & Co. Christmas Warehouse Road Trip. We're going to hop on a bus and join your fellow Women of Rotary members as we shop more than 60,000 square feet of Christmas fun. Lastly, October the 27th, our very own Barry Goldberg will be leading a Design Your Life mini workshop at the Nest. Designing Your Life is a #1 New York Times bestseller written by 2 Stanford professors, and the concept is that we can take design principles and apply it to our life to create a more fulfilling and enriched life, and of course, more fun. Community Bakery is providing breakfast. We're going to start at 7:30. Program kicks off at 8. Again, Karen will send out sign-up links and Zoom links, so please watch your email for that. And join the fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. For those who have been involved in Women of Rotary, it's a really fun group, and so I hope a lot of our new members will join in on that. So as you guys, I'm going to kind of launch into our Power of Fun tip today. So for our guest, we have a theme this year. It's the Power of Fun, and we're really learning about that all together as a club. So as some of you might know, in May, the Surgeon General released a new advisory titled Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation, which found that even before the COVID-19 pandemic, about half of U.S. adults reported experiencing measurable levels of loneliness. So according to the Surgeon General's office, there's an epidemic of loneliness in the United States. Lacking connection can increase the risk for premature death to levels, this is shocking, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Really shocking. The advisory warned that the physical consequences of poor connection can be devastating, including a 29% increased risk of heart disease, a 32% increased risk of stroke, and a 50% increased risk of developing dementia for older adults. So I don't want to get us into this negative space today, but instead remind you why Rotary Club is so important and Rotary matters. Rotary International and specifically this club is about connection and service. And those are 2 really important things when it comes to true fun and combating loneliness. So in fact, one of the 6 steps that the Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, recommends to fight loneliness is to cultivate a culture of connection. One way Dr. Murthy says we can do this is by serving others. So he specifically says, which we have up there on the screen too. When we help other people, we establish an experience or a connection with them, but we also remind ourselves of the value that we bring to the world. And that's essential because when people struggle with loneliness over time, it does erode their self-esteem and their sense of self. It can make them believe that over time that they're lonely because they're not likable or they're not lovable. And when we serve others, we come to see that's just not the case. So our club, as you guys know, has so many ways to serve. And so Saturday is one of them. Dan Parker spoke about this last week. We would love your participation in the Miracle League on Saturday. We're looking for buddies. We need 20 of them, so we've got a little ways to go. So we need you to come out on Saturday and be a buddy at Miracle League. And you will pair up with a child with special needs who just wants to enjoy the thrill of batting a ball, guys, or running those bases. And honestly, I can't think of another way more perfect to serve others. You're really serving somebody in that capacity. And it doesn't end there. Over this next month, we'll be telling you about lots of other additional ways that you can serve our community. Karen's going to send out that Miracle League link today, so I encourage you to take a couple of hours on your Saturday and have fun and serve others. This club specifically, Rotary Club of Little Rock, is truly the answer to true fun. It's about connection, playfulness, and flow, which we've been talking about, make that true fun moment. And so you will find those if you commit yourself to service above self. So I hope that you take a look at those service opportunities and get on board. So now it's time to see which Club 99er is having all the fun this week.
Hi, my name is Jerome Strickland Jr. I serve as the Executive Director of the Contingent Arkansas, and you may know us more commonly as Every Child Arkansas. For fun, I enjoy hopping on my motorcycle, sometimes with my daughter on the back, or my wife, whoever feels adventurous, and we take the side roads all the way to Lake Hamilton in Hot Springs Village, and they have a man-made beach there that is incredible. So I don't have to pay to travel to Texas or Florida when I want beach time with my family. What got me into motorcycle riding was the idea of having what they call two-wheel therapy. My daughter, she loves being on the motorcycle, mainly because she started riding with me when she was 6 years old. And she would have her helmet on, I would as well. We have microphones, and she would just sing songs. I'd hear her sing. We'd point at horses and cows and things along the road. It was a great time for us to make memories. My only caveat is, I want her to only ride with her father. If she ever meets a young man who rides motorcycles, they are not allowed in my family, only her dad. My family and I spent time in Shanghai, China, a little over a year, both for grad school and for work. I worked for a healthcare company there that had been expanding outside of the US. And we had a thrilling time learning a different culture and language and being there with my wife and our 19-month-old daughter. On our land, we do projects constantly. Want a photo studio, Jerome? Let's build it. So we're currently building a photo studio. We grow food on our own. We're always doing things outdoors, enjoying the nature and enjoying the benefits of living here. I've had the opportunity to travel across the entire state, all 75 counties, assisting a campaign last year. And through that, I was able to meet Arkansans from many walks of life, face to face, to hear some of their challenges, some of their uniqueness. And what I really enjoy is the fact that we have such different people, but the things we hold dear is so similar. And the pride that we have in being here is rich. I decided to bring my kids here from Ohio to live and grow, and I don't plan on moving anywhere else. This is my state. I'm proud of it, and I know they're going to become amazing people just because of the experiences they'll have here.
Jerome, I'm so glad that you guys moved here, and I love that special connection you have on the bike with your daughter. That's so great. All right, now on to today's fabulous program. I cannot wait. I'd like to invite past President Denver Peacock to come up and introduce this program that he got started during his program or during his presidential year, and we are able to finally make it happen. So glad to have you, Paul, and Denver. Take it away.
Well, I'm excited today to introduce Tony Award-winning producer Paul Oakley Stovall, who I had the great fortune to meet last year briefly at a special event at Crystal Bridges. More on that in a minute. Later, I was able to track him down through some of my friends through the Clinton-Obama world and ask him to join us at Club 99. And we're thrilled to have him here today. Paul has strong ties to Arkansas. His late father, Charles, was raised in Cotton Plant in Woodruff County, not far from my hometown of McCrory. While his mother, Joyce, who is here with us today, thank you, grew up in Fordyce. And although Paul was raised in Chicago, his parents eventually moved back to Arkansas probably about 25 years ago, right? And if you saw Hamilton in Little Rock, you saw Paul star in his role as George Washington in the Angelica tour. I've seen 4 different versions of Hamilton, from Chicago and Memphis to Broadway, and yes, here in Little Rock. Paul has been my favorite George Washington of them all. He's an incredibly talented singer, producer, writer, and activist. And you can read more about him from his bio. But I'll just say this, we're lucky to have him here with us today. Moderator Allison Courtney joined the Little Rock news scene nearly 20 years ago, first at THV 11 and later at KTV 7, where she was the co-anchor of Daybreak. She's now Director of Development at Argenta Community Theater, and she and her husband, Wes Moore, are raising 2 aspiring actors in Brooklyn and Berkeley. Now, before Paul and Allison come up, I'd like to show you a short video I took of that chance encounter with Paul when my then 9-year-old daughter, Presley, asked him a very important question. Check it out.
I was there when you were doing it in Little Rock.
Oh, you went to Little Rock?
Yeah, I was there. And I wonder why you weren't on Broadway.
He said, I wonder why you're not on Broadway. Listen to this response. Listen to the humanity in this one.
So if you have anybody you can talk to about that. But the serious answer to your question is that job was already taken, and I'm certainly available if that job ever opens up. But thank you for the compliment. Oddly, my time in Little Rock was very special. I think it was February or March we were there, and my father had just died in January. And everybody was very upset for me, but he had been struggling. And this is something you don't understand yet, and you don't need to yet. But I felt like he had the best seat, and he decided, I want to have better seats. He had seen me.
So anyway, you can see the humanity in Paul. I think you're going to love having him here today. Allison, please, guys, come up here and help me, all of you, with a warm Rotary welcome to Allison and Paul.
Well,
what
thank
detective
you.
show are we going to do together?
Well, Paul said, let's have some fun when we were walking up, which I love the theme. Natalie, it's so great to be here with all of you. And of course, with Paul, we got to meet about a week ago. And what a treat. You're in for it today. But Paul, thank you for being back to Little Rock. And Miss Joyce, I've been talking to Miss Joyce.
We need to pull up another chair.
We can do another segment with Miss Joyce
her,
after this. But let's start with what that we saw on the video there. That's a great question. And I know you ran into a lot of kids over the tour who maybe were seeing a live theater production for the very first time, fell in love with it, watching you and your cast. What about the impact that you had on people playing that role?
In particular for kids, and I'm so glad we're starting here because after Denver's intro, I felt like I don't have anything else to say. He just told my life story. Great. But Hamilton, for everything that people think that it is, ooh, don't you just love the applause? Don't you love being in a show that's so hot? Don't you love, everything that they think goes with a job like that? For me, it was after the show, meeting young people on the rope line who wanted autographs. And the cast, I'm sure this is being recorded or streamed, they were, a lot of them were a lot younger, and they liked the thrill of signing the autograph, but they didn't want to take the time with the kids. And so I learned after a while to wait and let everyone else go, because if I got on the line, the cast would be like, come on, Paul, we're trying to go to this bar. We're trying to go do something else. Because I would always say, all right, so for instance, a young lady is dressed, some of the kids would dress like the characters. Mm-hmm. And I would say, so you dressed like Angelica. Is that your favorite character? And inevitably the young woman would say, no. I'd say, well, who's your favorite character? Aaron Burr. So why aren't you dressed as Aaron Burr? You can do anything you want. Like, there was just always an opportunity, and the parents would try to step in and say, oh, yeah, she's out. This is me and the child time. Let them speak. Yeah. Let them grow. Let them address an adult in the best way that they can. And that was the opportunity for me. That was the blessing of the show.
Yeah, you taking those opportunities and teaching along the way. I imagine that you had great role models.
I was raised by a teacher.
Yes, yeah. And talk a little bit about your family and your connection to the South, because you didn't live in the South, but you have this Southern sense of self, as you describe it.
Yeah, I was raised by, as Denver said, my father was born and raised in Cotton Plant, my mother in Fordyce. They met in Pine Bluff in college at Arkansas A&M, which is now University of Pine Bluff. Is it correct? University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And me and my mother, she always, she tells me so they raised me in Chicago, but she would send me down for the summer to stay with my grandmother, as they were wont to do back in the day. That's what parents did. Go stay with your grandmother for the whole summer. Go stay with her. And she tells this story that my brother and my grandmother would call my brother Jay, and he'd come running to the house for mealtime or dinner time or whatever. Paul, Paul, and I'd be, a half a mile away, over the river and through the woods, down the creek, playing with snakes, just doing, and she'd call my mother and say, come get him, because he's not going to die on my watch. He's not going to die. Now, that said, if she had squashed my spirit of adventure, I wouldn't be the person that I am today, because that is, a situation like that is when a mother might step in and say, all right, that's enough for you. But she'll also tell stories that in the south side of Chicago urban environment where we were, I'd follow the dog through a little hole under the fence at 3 years old, go down the alley across the street into the park. And she's thinking, my God, I'm going to get arrested for being a bad mother. I lost my child. But I would make my way across the street and just be pointing at the swing, because that was my favorite thing, and just going ding, ding, ding. And instead of yelling at me, she'd say, all right, let's put him on the swing, and I'll have my book. And so it's things like that I'm not trying to teach people how to parent, but I'm very lucky that I had a parent who said, well, I'm doing my best, and then I let the other half be in God's hands to look after him and let him go. Yeah.
Well, clearly it instilled I can do anything. At attitude, and you kind of have done a little bit of everything. I mean, people are hearing about you as George Washington in Hamilton, but you've done so many other things. Talk about that lead up to, because you were in acting school, or you were, a working actor, and going through all the trials and tribulations that presents, and then you found your way into politics.
Yeah, I was, I'm not supposed to be here. I graduated college with a degree in theater, had been cast in my very first show right out of college. So I basically, about 2 weeks at home, and then they drove me up to Minneapolis where I was starting rehearsal on my first show. 6 days into rehearsal, the apartment I was staying in got broken into, and I was shot in both my legs and left for dead. Obviously, I didn't die, here I am, but it was pretty traumatic. Mom had to come up to Minneapolis and help me with the therapies and getting my legs going again. And so then every day is a blessing after something like that, right? I keep going, get back on my feet, get my theater career going in Chicago, and then I hit a show that was going to transfer to New York. Did that, thought I'm going to make it. I've made it. That's not the way it works. So harsh reality, I'm now working retail at the Container Store. Do you have that in Little Rock, Container Store? So I'm working in a retail store, still calling my parents now and then for money at an age where, look, there's no right or wrong age. Believe, how old are your kids?
19 and 15.
Oh, they're going to be 20 more years of asking you for money. Right. So, sorry to let
It's true. I know.
But I have really strong memories of, and I in particular remember the last time I did it was walking down the street with my friend Zach in Crown Heights, where I had to just call my dad and ask him for money. And there was something different about the way he laid into me that time, and still gave me the money. But, things click when they click, right? So I'm back at work in the Container Store, had to downsize into a smaller apartment that was out in Jersey City, and just had really started to understand you can't have everything you want at the moment that you want it, right? You can't live that way just because your friends are living that way. Don't worry about what your friend is doing. And then a guy at the Container Store said, hey, I used to work at the store in DC, and when I was there, I worked doing Advance on the Hill. I had no idea what that is, right? He described it a little, and then he got a call to go work for this Obama person running for president. And I thought, well, so you'll be back in a few weeks because Hillary's going to win, and you're just probably trying to have a little change in life and go do that. A few months later, he called me up and said there's space on the team because the Clintons had such a well built-in Advance world, so they didn't need people. But this Obama guy, he was trying to build his infrastructure. So much so, they were willing to take artists who knew nothing about what to do. I took the gig because it paid as much as Container Store. Really, that's why I took it, not because it paid as much and I got to travel. And as you all heard earlier, I love to wander and travel. And that changed my life. Now, I was just putting chairs in the right place and making sure the teleprompter was working. I wasn't in legislative affairs or writing policy. But what I was doing was being on the periphery of watching two people under such a harsh spotlight. So whatever I thought of their politics, honestly, the shameful thing to admit is I wasn't that much into politics. I was an actor who was just trying to get that Broadway role, right? But what I watched was people handling themselves with grace under pressure, being judged for every little thing they did, but keeping it together. And there was something I could learn from that. And so then fast forward, after going into playwriting for a bit and having a little success, Felicia Rashad directed a couple of my plays, this Hamilton thing came along, and I think the way that I auditioned, because I had seen firsthand, not what the first president went through, but what a first president. You know, Obama was a first. So I had watched, at least from a distance, and so the calm in which I could go into that audition that I thought I had no chance at probably helped me.
The audition process that you go through on a regular basis, you're obviously highly successful. But that is something that a lot of people don't really understand. You see somebody like you who is an incredible performer, but you're not always on the stage, you're not always getting the role. And so you have to figure out other things to do with that creativity and that artistry that you want to put to work.
The answer is no 9 out of 10 times. So as Denzel Washington once said, you can fall down 7 times, but just get up 8. And that's all that part is about. And then there's a lot of luck. Is your name in someone's mind when they're thinking about something? Did you make an impression on that young person who then grew up and started writing plays and said, where's that old Paul Stovall now? You know, we need an old person. I bet he's old by now. You hope that you just make impressions on people. You know, it's a lot of luck. One of your kids is
They both
acting?
are.
They both are?
So yeah, they
Are they in
teach
New
us
York?
so many great lessons. One's at Pepperdine in Malibu. So more TV film, which is
TV
something
film.
that you're dabbling in, working on. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you hadn't noticed, I'm a 6'5" black man, and they're not writing the Tom Cruise roles for me. So I decided to make them for myself, and I started a production company. Because of Hamilton, we would actually have a fair amount of shows where J.P. Morgan Chase or Bank of America might buy out a portion of the house. And so what they also get with that is a pre-show meet and greet. And the producers fairly frequently chose me to do those meet and greets because I was a little older and I had a way that I knew how to, I knew that I'd studied the history a lot. I could give people little tidbits to watch out for in the show and stuff like that. So I started meeting these small business people who could help you get something started. And I started my company. I've made 6 films, all short films. I'm yet to make a feature. But I actually met Fred Wood and Chase Rackley and a couple of people. When I come down here to visit my mom, I work out at the Little Rock Athletic Club to play tennis. And I have a script for a film called Little Rock, R-O-C, this character named Rock. And we were talking about how Little Rock has not been dabbled into with the film industry. And people don't know what Little Rock looks like, and they don't know that Little Rock and the nearby surrounding area can look like a lot of places. So you could shoot everything here, but be pretending that its location somewhere else. So one of the things I'm intent on is bringing that love back to Arkansas. I know that Fayetteville had a film shot there years ago, though, right?
Yeah, Northwest. Well, there's some that come in and out, but we could still stand. We know the economic impact that has on an area.
Right.
Huge.
Then you get a little. You don't need a huge studio, but you have the equipment here and the artists here, particularly crew people. And then when you bring that to Little Rock, then actors want to come. Then
they want to stay.
Then Nicole Kidman says, I had a great time shooting there. I'm going to go back and shoot something else there. Then the restaurants along the river. That's how it goes. So it did strike me when forgive me, who led us in the prayer? Your name? Patricia said, Heavenly Creator. And that struck me. Create. The Heavenly Creator is an artist. The world is a work of art because we are all works of art. And so my goal is, my brain starts turning that way, and I almost spun right out of the library to bring that to Little Rock.
We would love
Maybe
that,
get
right?
your kids home, right?
Yes.
Yeah, get them home and do work here.
Let's do it, for sure. You mentioned Patricia's prayer, and it struck me too, because I don't know that I've ever been in a place where there's been a prayer specifically about theater and the arts. And now that I work in theater and the arts, it's so important that we recognize that. I know you see this too, Paul, that, when we had the pandemic, it sent people home, and our biggest competitor now for live theater is those streaming services. And it's so important that people get out and experience live theater. One of the most thrilling things is that it's different every single night. No, and you can talk a little bit about that. But the issue that we're facing with theater in general and the arts, funding continues to diminish in schools and beyond. The list goes on and on.
For those who have the deep pockets, that's the choice. That is the choice. Who we are as human beings, creations, we are storytellers. That's how we started. The women would go out on the hunt. Yes, I said women because that's the way it really was. And they would come back, light the fire, and everybody would sit to hear about what happened on the hunt. And they would act it out. So you could sort of live outside of yourself through storytelling. That's who we are. That is what we do. I'll add to that when it comes to education and trying to get the kids to put the thing down and go and play, playing cowboys. And then, I knew my mother was like, just be home before the street lights come on, but be out in the world. So trying to get them out in the world, I want to remind young people, there aren't any here, but there's young people here, excuse me. Watch it, Paul. Watch it. It's called liberal arts and sciences for a reason. When I talk to some kids on the rope line and I say, what do you want to do? What do you want to grow up and be? And they'd say, I don't know. I would say that's the perfect answer. You're not supposed to know right now. And so a lot of us, I did it too, would start college in liberal arts and sciences because that was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm liberal arts and sciences. But there's a reason they say arts and sciences. You can't have one without the other. The best scientist is an artist. Galileo, how do you think he figured out gravity? He was dreaming, right? And the best artists, Da Vinci, they're scientific. Da Vinci used to go to the cemetery and steal bodies and bring them into his kitchen and put them on the counter and dissect them. Your curiosity will teach you. So the two things go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So we need to invest more in the arts, for sure, so that we can. One of the benefits would be you'll get better tech. We'll have those people feeling supported who can help us figure out how to keep theater going, how to get us to remember that being in a room together, as long as we're not vaping or doing crazy things in the theater. That was I didn't know if that joke would go, but it's not a political joke. It was just funny to me, what's been happening the past few days. But we want people to respect the arts, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Hamilton was one of those shows that, maybe come around once. And it gave that big boost that theater needed, I think, at the time, and is continuing to, we're seeing that, which is fantastic. In terms of getting to be a part of that production, you like history. What did George Washington teach you?
He continues to teach me. One of the things I didn't know you were gonna get me like this. Well, I'll tell you this. When I joined the show, one of the first things they said was focus on the lines, focus on your blocking, focus on the songs. Don't dig too deep in because it'll send you down a rabbit hole. Wait till you kind of have your feet under you and then start researching. I was fortunate enough over the 4 years and very fortunate that I was on tour, so I could go to places like Richmond, Virginia, where there's a museum that has his actual journal, and they would take me back there. You got to put the gloves on and do that with the pages, and he taught me how to hydrate and rest. And I know that sounds crazy, but some of his journal entries, it would say Saturday, went horseback riding in the field, needed time alone away from Martha and the kids, sat on the farm, on the hill, and did nothing. Like, that's what George Washington was saying, and then some of his entries would be exercise with the kids today reminded me how to play. Something like that. I'm very much paraphrasing, for the way, linguistically, the way he wrote. So he taught me that, and he taught me how to, I'm going to put this the right way. George Washington had 9 lives. What a lot of people don't know is he was part of the reason the War of 1812 started. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Thank you, French and Indian War. He was an explorer. He was 21 and going out and charting the land that became Pittsburgh, and he almost got shot and killed and jumped into the frozen Allegheny to escape being chased. I mean, he was a real rascal, that George Washington, who became a statesman. So the biggest thing I learned from him is we are multifaceted. Everything you are is already in you. You just must let it bloom. And I don't know too much about his mother. I know a lot about his father, but he clearly, he was a loner. I talked to my mom a lot about don't ever mistake the difference between being alone and being lonely. That being alone is a good thing if you got your self-worth and a good book. Lonely is a completely different thing. He seemed like someone who enjoyed being on his own, alone and with his own thoughts. So I try to always remember, it's okay that you're not at the party. It's okay that you're not at the thing over here. It's something to remind you, especially the age your kids are at. Don't worry about that. Entertain yourself. You have the entire universe between your ears.
Words very important with you as a person, but also in Hamilton, those words were so powerful. Do you have a favorite line that in the show, either that you said from George Washington or just another favorite?
I do. This is easy. And it's not what people expect. But does everyone, raise your hand if you know the show generally? You saw it? Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. So it's not one of the historical things that Lynn wrote. It's in Quiet Uptown after the young son, spoiler alert, after, well, it's not, it's in history books, after their son Philip dies, and they're trying to get their marriage back together. And Eliza takes his hand very simply, and the entire ensemble sings, "Forgiveness, can you imagine?" To me, that's what the whole show is about. I think the whole show, the 3-hour experience of the wars and the Sons of Liberty and the history and the Constitution and the presidency, it's all about our humanity. This show is about humanity and forgiveness. It's the quietest thing we do in the show. The entire ensemble's there. And we don't just say forgiveness. We kind of almost say it directly to the audience. Can you imagine where we would be if we learned how to forgive each other? So for me, that was...
I love that. The theme that Natalie has is fun. So you have to tell us something. I mentioned earlier that it's thrilling because the show is different every night. And there's got to be some moment while you were on tour that something happened that was wild and crazy and you guys had to recover from. What was that moment?
Well, that's nightly. It really is, because it's 1,000,000 words. There's somebody actually got the actual number. So the gentleman who played Hamilton and the woman who played Angelica and myself, we kind of got our last names were named after the way that we would mess up, because sometimes you just can't get it out. So Hamilton would just stop talking and stare at you as if it was your mistake. And you're looking at him like, this is not the type of show where I can help you. The music's going. The music does not stop.
Right.
And he would just, almost like he was frozen. Angelica, when she messed up, she would suddenly become Ella Fitzgerald and start scatting and bebopping. So satisfied. And she would just, until she can get back on track, right? And I was known for completely rewriting the show and making up lyrics that were not the lyrics, but it made perfect sense. So something would come to my mind, and it wouldn't be the line at all, but I would say something that made sense. Because the whole cast would get off stage and say, was that the, because that did make sense. That's not the line. Because, Hamilton is a show, you have to be at the gym 30 minutes before the show. You have to get your brain and your body working, because it will, and once it flies out of your mind,
yeah,
you're gone.
Yeah. I mean, you guys never stop moving. You never stop talking.
Never stop
you never
talking.
stop singing. You never stop. It's go, go, go.
Yeah.
But you are in shape, or you keep in shape with tennis. That kind of of keeps you going with the and keeps you active when you're not performing?
Yeah, it goes back to that alone thing, raised by an only child. My mother was an only child. And I like to be by myself. So the whole cast would go to the gym, the local gym in whatever city, and I would be looking ahead in each city, do they have an indoor tennis club? And that's where I would go as my place of peace. I also, for anyone who's a tennis fan, I relate tennis to theater a lot. You can't worry about what the other person's doing. You have to focus on yourself. The hand, mind, body coordination is important. And how you practice is how you will perform. You'll see your favorite tennis player when they start locking up and nervous and suddenly can't serve. I say, oh, they didn't practice hard enough because their body is revolting against them. And it's the same thing in theater. If you're not on it, that's when your body will just reject the situation and nerves will take over. I always say, don't worry about being nervous. You should be nervous. If you're not nervous, you're not alive. But you're driving the car, so put the nerves in the passenger seat, strap it in and say, you can come with me, but you sit over there, I'm driving this car. But the nerves are healthy.
Sure.
Yeah.
On the tour, what was your favorite stop aside from Little Rock? Because
Little
we're
Rock.
certain that was your favorite, but
It really was. So besides Little Rock,
yeah, besides Little
this
Rock.
is going to surprise you, Omaha, Nebraska. There's a lot of history there. Malcolm X. There's a lot of music that happened there. Great restaurants, great food, pretty contained. I don't need the New York City and all of that. Now, for sheer history, Boston was the best. Because once the show opened, I couldn't walk down the street without people saying, George Washington ate a peanut right there. George Washington killed a squirrel right there. We haven't put the monument up yet, but he did it. George Washington climbed this tree right here, and then he, every corner of Boston has something to learn from.
Sure.
So it was pretty cool.
You're eternally connected to George Washington, for sure.
And all of them,
Yeah.
Our theater was on the corner of Lafayette and Washington Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you ever play that role again?
If the money was right. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it's hard, it'd be different if I was sort of jumping back in for 2 months to cover or something. Yes. It's hard.
I mean, you're traveling. Tell everyone a little bit about what that looks like being on tour, where you're staying. You're just hopping all over and
yeah. Hamilton was my third tour. I did a tour of Once on This Island and Rent years ago. But back then, you all stayed in hotels. You all stayed together. And we're in this Airbnb world now, which is good and bad. I don't have to be around them. I can that theme is recurring. I can rent a place. Where was I staying in Little Rock? Over on Scott Street in the cool neighborhood by the ice cream place. That's great.
Yeah, Soma.
Woo, good but dangerous. Because I'll go, yeah. Love that place. And a great restaurant across the street. So the good thing is you discover things like that in these cities. The hard thing is sometimes you barely open the suitcase because it becomes, I don't even want to get comfortable here because we leave in 3 more weeks. And it can be, you got to know who you are. You have to know who you are, or you can go down a very distracting path. I'll say that. Not a dark path, but a distracting path.
What is the future for Paul? What do you want to accomplish now?
I'm moving into my TV film era. My films are doing pretty well. I've been writing plays. I wrote a new play about Phyllis Wheatley that was a hit in Philadelphia, so we're trying to remount that. So I wouldn't never get back on stage, but it has to be a role like George Washington, and how often would that come along, right? I've been asked to audition for many, many things. Once you do something like that, you get, and I've, just not to waste anyone's time, I've often said, that's okay. So the future is TV and film.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll talk to your daughter about writing detective show that we can do.
Perfect. Perfect.
2 detectives
She's
in
my
Little
retirement
Rock.
plan.
You,
so
yeah, okay, you're investing well.
I need that to, I need that to happen. You know, you talked about the impact of your family, your dad and your grandmother, specifically spending those summers with your grandmother who said, come get him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want him to die on my watch. What would she say about the things that you've accomplished?
Oh, she'd be out of her mind. She was, in the best way, someone who, to my remembrance, I know Mom's like, what is he going to say? To my recollection, she cared about how she presented herself. She cared about how she looked. She cared about how the family presented to the community. That's what I remember about her. Just how beautiful she was. And it took me till I got older to realize that doesn't just happen. That's someone who takes good care of the family and herself. She'd be very, very, she'd be proud, but she would be practical about her pride. You know, she'd be like you, so what's next? That's good that you did that thing. What are you doing next? You know, there's no time for this. And still no time for that. You know, my mom's not really like that. She's like, what are you doing next? Let's keep it going. There's work to do.
Which keeps you going, right?
It does keep me going.
Yeah. So you mentioned maybe the TV film thing in Little Rock. Could you see yourself living in the South? Returning to those roots one day?
If I could get that going, I would absolutely come here. Amy, is it Mines or Mines? When she drove me from the airport to my mom's house, we got to talking about Fayetteville a little bit. And I like that healthy competition where she was like, I love Little Rock. You know, Fayetteville is great up there, but, you know, people don't know. And that's just 2. There's Rogers. There's so many great pockets when you have a state that has a lot of medium-sized cities. So there is more to it than just Little Rock or Fayetteville, but it's also great that you can get to any of them within a couple hours or a day's drive. So I would think about it.
That probably makes Mom happy.
Yeah. Thumbs up on that one?
Yeah.
You know, I have some connections here. I have Will Trice. I have
He'll put you to work.
I have Fred Wood and other people. I have Denver, and so I have people that I could come and get creative and artistic with, your company, your theater company. So anything's possible.
Well, I know we would love to have you here in Little Rock. I think we have some time for some questions. Yeah? Okay. Yeah, just a couple of questions if anyone has one. There's a Jay back there. Oh. Yeah, Jay's asking about Rosetta Tharpe.
Yeah.
The show.
Player. Yeah. She was a little older than my mom, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I'll say about that, Mom, did you know who Rosetta Tharpe was? You knew who that was. You want to say anything else?
I'm going to bring the mic. I think you need the mic.
Ressie Stutterman. You don't know who she is? You know, who is Ressie Stutterman? Ressie Stutterman was his kindergarten teacher. And I did not know that she was teaching them Easter speeches until we were visiting my mother and family in Fordyce at Easter time when he insisted on being a part of that church's planned Easter program. I didn't know he already knew a speech to say. Well, I talked to the person in charge, and she said, okay. My mother was saying, you don't have any control over that kid, do you? You know? And so he went up and said a speech at Easter time. I will never forget it.
Greenville Baptist
And then
Church.
his grandmother proudly bragged on him for the name. I didn't, that kind of thing. So I'm just sitting here, and Ressie Stutterman's name came through. She is probably in heaven now, but I'd like to say thank you for helping me get him to where he is.
Teachers
She needs
so
no chair.
impactful. Thank you
Teachers
for
are
that
so
story,
impactful.
Miss Joyce.
And I want to touch on Rosetta Tharpe real quick. And just the only thing I have to say about that is we've seen recently Jan Winter from Rolling Stone ignore the fact that he didn't use Stevie Wonder or Marvin Gaye. But it's actually the women. Rosetta Tharpe influenced, as you said, B.B. King and Chuck Berry. Big Mama Thornton influenced. It was these women who were at the root of what American rock and roll and jazz is. Never forget that.
I think we're pretty much out of time. One more question? Do we have one more question?
We've covered it all.
We've covered it all. What a pleasure it's been to get to talk with you and have you back here.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
For people, real quick, for people that want to follow you, how can they follow what you're doing and
Okay,
your
don't
career?
laugh. Don't laugh. Tall Power Paul on social medias.
Tall
Power Paul.
I love that.
There you
Okay,
go.
you guys stay there for 1 second.
Okay.
Thank you again. This was amazing. I have to say, Paul, I'm kind of fangirling here. My favorite musical is Rent. So you played Benny?
Collins.
Collins, okay.
Yeah. With
I
Wilson
love
Cruz.
that.
Wilson
And my
Cruz was
second
Angel.
favorite is Hamilton. So just love it. And I've also, like Denver, seen it 4 times touring here. So New York and Chicago. And it is truly just what you said, Allison, just one of those moments in time that can never be recreated. It's just a beautiful, wonderful musical. And what a cool thing that you got to experience that and that you shared it with us today. Thank you so much. Thank you. For each of you, we have a little gift for each of you. It is a little doodle pad that you can put on your desk, and it actually is of a mural that is being painted. It's almost done, guys, and you're going to be hearing more about it to come celebrate the unveiling with us. And I don't know, Jake, can you put that up there so they can see that? Thank you. So that's what it looks like. It's a mural down in the River Market, and it really kind of builds on our Power of Fun theme here because Little Rock is also big on fun, and we want to remind people of the beauty of Arkansas and the fun that they can have here. And so I'm so glad, Paul, that you are coming back and experiencing some fun here in Little Rock. So thank you guys again for being here, for sure.
Thank you.
Next week, not to be missed, another not to be missed program. Arkansas author Eli Craner is going to be here. Eli has made lots of headlines with his 2 inaugural books and national awards, and is taking on the CAL's upcoming Six Bridges Book Festival as a keynote there. And so he will be here. Steve Stracely, who's an avid reader and writes a column for the Democrat Gazette, is going to be moderating that. So it's going to be a really good one. So I hope to see you guys next week for that, and I think we are adjourned. Thank you again. Yeah.